Hello and welcome to the Jesters Court.
I
Uh,
don't even know if that was in beat, but that was awesome.
I'm suddenly reminded as I was watching you that it's 23 seconds, but that feels like an eternity when you don't hear anything.
It was a bit. A bit. Scotch.
So, hello and welcome to the Jesters Court, the defenders of the unfairly downtrodden. I am your host, Mike Eveland, and with me, as not always because Mom Thulu is absent, we have a special guest host.
Me.
Hi, we have Mr. Scotty White from the MopCast Network.
Yes, I'm your Native American pop culture spirit guide from the MopCast Network.
I almost use that tag, and then I'm like, I'm going to stumble on that. If I say
No.
that, I'm going to stumble all over it.
So, fun fact. So, I started the MopCast Network in 2014, and in college, and I'm Porch Creek Indian, and I wanted to share my culture as part of my identity. And originally, it was the Native American Internet spirit guide, and then I was like, I don't really know like technical stuff. I mean, I can't help you with if your internet goes down. I'm not that kind of guy. And so I was like, I might get phone calls, and I'm like, oh no. So like 3 episodes into the network, we were like, well, we changed it to something else. So it's been that way ever since.
People get confused when you get called a computer guy because at my job, we got hired because I'm a computer guy,
Right.
and they seem to think that means like I know how to do things like Excel. And I'm like, no, I can hook up your speakers and help you with your internet. That doesn't mean I know how to work, Microsoft Word. Like,
Oh, word. Exactly. I got you.
but computer is computers.
That's true. That is computers are computers, and I'm like, no. Computers to me are like cars. I can drive a car, I can operate a computer, but magic fairies run that stuff. And so when it breaks, I don't know how someone needs to replace the fairy or feed the fairy. I'm not sure how it works, but I have to get an expert to come do that. So like I can't change an oil, I can change like a tire or something, but like oil, I don't do any of that. I don't do the manly stuff like that.
The oil change. I do know how to change my own oil because once upon a time, kids, it's cheaper to do it yourself.
Right.
It
Now I
is no
just go to
longer.
Walmart,
It is no
big,
longer.
big box store.
So this is our first episode of season 2. Scotty, you have a wonderful, you are the crown jewel of the season.
Yes, already.
I know you guys
The
have been
bar that
excited.
other guests have to reach. I'm all for it. They
Um,
will. It's not.
so we're playing catch up here because last time I saw you, Scotty, was Pensacon. We share a
That's
venue.
true. That was in February.
Scotty here's one of our moderators, and I run a panel, and he was our moderator. So we got to hang out and bonded all week, and we're like, you podcast,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
podcast. Like,
yeah. Mike's a great guy. We were so happy to kind of meet up and befriend each other.
and then I know you started a new show on
Yes, I
your
did.
network.
Yeah, I have
How's
this new
that
show
going?
called. It's going great. I have a new show called Tuesdays with Scotty. I have 3 shows on the network. I have Cult Movie Cantina, which deals with, as a title, cult movies. And then I have a Star Wars show, which deals with Star Wars. But I wanted a show that lets me talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. And so I created a show for that. So me and my producer, we talk just about whatever we want to. And then I bring in a special guest. It may be, a friend of mine who loves G.I. Joe. It may be a guy who's running for governor in Alabama. And then we talk for a while. And then I split the interview up with a story from that I find interesting. So you might learn about like the Hartford Circus fire, or the guy who gets mad at his town and builds a tank to crush it. And so that's the show. Literally, it's just whatever I find interesting that I want to share with the world, and that's what I do.
So far, they've been very interesting. I love
Thank
the
you.
it's one of those things you hear about history, and you're like, yeah, that tracks. But at the same time, what were they thinking? And your
Absolutely.
circus story one, so apparently, guys, spoiler alert: if you go check out his show,
Yep.
circus tents used to soak them. They used to soak them in gasoline and paraffin.
Yeah, paraffin. So just a real quick recap of this story, the Reader's Digest version. Ringer Brothers Broadway Bay Circus came to Hartford, Connecticut, and July of 1944. Had a big tent that had 5,000 people in it, and it was a matinee show. And then the tent caught fire, but they waterproofed it with gasoline and paraffin. And when it went up, it went up. I mean, it didn't. The tent never collapsed. It just evaporated and killed 170 people and injured 700. It was a terrible disaster. But listen to the story to find out actually who was involved. And there's some really big surprises about it.
it was really cool. And again, some of the ridiculous things we do in the past, like gasoline.
Yeah, that's
That will not backfire in any way, shape, or form. We're good.
because it hadn't. They had used it for decades, and it was a lot easier to do it, especially because World War II was going on, and so rationing. So it was easier to waterproof it, and because if the rain came and soaked through the tent, the circus would have to give back the money, and God, heaven forbid that they give back the money. So they gasoline and paraffin.
Capitalism.
Right.
All right. So before we can talk about random stuff all night. That's how me and Scotty are. So let's play timekeeper and move along a little bit before we get started on tonight's topic. I do want to do shout outs for our awesome patrons.
Yay.
We have Mr. Kyle here, our founding patron. Before the show was even live, he was already there.
Yay, Kyle. You, sir, are the man.
He is the man. He really is. Firebrand, which if you're in the gaming charity community, you would know him, and he's amazing.
Thank you for all you do, Fireman.
Mr. Derek Diamond of the Feature Presentation Podcast, which is about to return.
Oh, Derek's a great dude too.
Yeah,
I like
awesome.
Derek.
He just got married.
Oh, Mazel Tov. I think he's working for like the Archdiocese though, so that's probably not appropriate. Mazel Tov.
He absolutely is. We also have Mr. Robert Hood and our brand
What's up,
new...
Robert Hood?
Robin, yes. Our brand new guy, Travis T, the terrorist, swirly piece of soda bread I know.
That's very long, and I'm not going to repeat that, but you, sir, are amazing.
So our friend Travis, his gamer tags have gone from soda bread to terror squirrel to old man RPG back to soda bread. So I try to incorporate all of his
nice
previous tags.
My gamer tag is Odie Nacho.
I strangely love that.
I know, right? I wanted to do I'm if you go to my YouTube page, youtube.com/MopCast Network, plugs. I have a bunch of my short films that I've made on there, and one time I wanted to do just a whole bunch with my friends when we all pretend like we're brothers, like the Ramones or the Bodines or something, and we were the Nacho Brothers. And it's because we're not brothers, so we're not your brother. So Nacho Brothers. And so I was clever 15 years ago. I don't know what happened then, but so that's why
I'm jealous of people with clever stories because Jester, that's my gamer tag. It's when I am everywhere. And that's because I was in second grade when Top Gun came out, and computer games were not cool enough to have enough letters to Maverick. So Jester is the guy they're fighting against in training. Jester's
absolutely
dead.
right. So are you excited for Maverick?
I am, but I'm also nervous for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an iconic piece of my childhood that could very easily be destroyed.
So fun fact, I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, and there's no reason why I have not seen it. It's just I have not collided with it yet. So I'm going to before Maverick. I think we're gonna try to do it on the show.
It's very 80s.
Oh, absolutely, and I love 80s. I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, so I love 80s movies. I just never crossed paths with it. But it's such a cultural icon, so I know all about it. But it's just like I never actually sat down and watched it.
Yeah, so, at this point, you couldn't really spoil it. You've probably heard every line by now.
Absolutely. Don't put baby in the corner. I mean,
wrong 80s movie. Just don't do what happened when I showed my son Willow. Another piece of my childhood, and he watched like 15 minutes of it. He's like, "This is boring." Like, you take that back.
How old is your son?
At the time, he was 12.
Okay, there's a time and place for all movies. So Labyrinth was another one of those movies that I missed. I saw Labyrinth in my 20s and I didn't get it. Like I missed it.
Labyrinth, it's kind of like Ewoks. You have to see it when you're a kid,
right?
To identify it like on that heart level, and then it's cool.
But on the flip side, Never Ending Story I saw when I was 10. It was magical. So yes. I prefer Never Ending Story to Labyrinth. Same way I feel about Monster Squad. I love Monster Squad and prefer to Goonies because I'm a monster.
No, that makes total sense. Because if I thinking about it, if I watch Labyrinth for the first time in my life right now, the only thing I'm gonna think is that is a big bulge in his fucking pants. This is a kids movie.
Yeah. It's a little like Henson's great, but Henson gets real trippy. And it's a little too trippy for me. And then there's Bowie doing Bowie things. So
I mean, it does have that whole scene where it's basically trip. When the dream sequence.
Right.
Yeah, that's drug induced.
I do like the scene. Welcome to the Labyrinth podcast. I like the scene where she is being burdened with memories and trinkets, so to keep her there. I
Yes,
thought that whole scene is clever, and but it's my favorite part. Like everything else does seems so kiddie, and then there's like this really interesting adult message in the middle of it, and then they just forget about it, move on. But it's fascinating.
it really is. Um, before we go, and by the way, don't feel bad if it gets sidetracked. I'm very big a believer in organic conversations. So
Yeah, if you listen to the MopCast Network, we should also be called the Tangent Network. We go on very many tangents.
I will fulfill my hostful duties and get us back going on track.
Ring me in.
This seems a little disconnected now, but guys, you too can be a patron. Just head over to the patreon.com/the Jester's Court. Our tiers start as low as $3 a month. You get all kinds of cool stuff.
$3.
And you get
As little
early
as-
access to episodes, exclusive commentary tracks. Last month we did Ghostbusters 2016. And Saturday morning cartoons in our Discord, where I get authentic 80s and 90s cartoons and authentic 80s and 90s commercials from Saturday
Nice.
morning cartoons. Splice them together and we watch 3 episodes.
Nice. You should do that. Little as $3, that.
It's
Do
$3. And for
Little as a cup of coffee.
yeah, I should, as much as I drink coffee, I should do those. People do like the buy me a cup of coffee things. I should totally do
Right.
that. Buy me a cup of coffee.
See, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'd buy you a cup of coffee.
I know you're not a coffee drinker, which is why I've never pushed you on my coffee.
Um,
Go to brez.com. brezcoffeeco.com.
when you come on my show, you better promote it all of them because the ladies are coffee drinkers on the show.
Oh, I'm gonna wear the shirt and bring my cards.
Rock on. That's what you do. Merchandising. Merchandising.
Speaking of which, we have a merch store. It's in the link.
Go to the merch store. Buy stuff. I say we don't even have merch yet. I've been around. I've been podcasting since the network's almost 8 years old. I don't have merch. We've.
The irony of that is you literally own a merch store.
Oh, absolutely. I own a toy store. I mean, and so yeah, I do weird stuff, but yeah, we don't have we'll make buttons and stickers and stuff and give them away. I just it's weird. I take that back. That's not true. I have like a TeePublic store that I've kind of abandoned, but it's still there. And every now and then I'll get hey, Google will say we're getting $2 for a sticker you sold. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that, right?
we are the generation of side hustles. That is our whole generation's identity. It's small business. We podcast. We have day jobs.
I got to do something. I mean, unlike you, I'm not married or don't have kids. So it's this is what I do. These are my children and this is my wife. I'm just married to this. And so I don't want to introduce a companion into this nightmare of a lifestyle. She would have to really be understanding or really want to be involved. So I haven't found her yet. So if you're out there though.
We just help each other out, so I'm on her podcast as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what you do. See, you got someone involved. That's great.
Guys, are you ready for the main event tonight?
Ding, 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 ding.
I've been excited for this one ever since Scotty recommended it because it's a secret passion movie of mine.
It's fantastic. It should have won Oscars.
We will get into that. Tonight, guys, if you haven't already guessed, we are talking about...
That's me writing homeworks. And music.
Oh. Can I just say, first off, I love music, but it's got a very distinct. You could play me a track from this music, and I would know it was a score from a movie in the 90s.
You do the soundtrack?
Yeah, I didn't do the opening scene like I usually do because it's kind of boring. So.
Right. I'm looking at who did the soundtrack.
Oh God! If you hadn't asked me, I just had the YouTube page pulled up and I closed it so it wouldn't start making noise.
Oh, that's okay. I have a phone here. We'll do that.
While he's doing that, guys, we're talking about Kevin Costner's The Postman, released in 1997.
Postman, ride!
With some disappointing results. It made $21 million off of an $80 million budget, which hurts because there's financial flops and there's oh my God, I'm never gonna get hired in Hollywood again flops. And unfortunately, this was more the latter than the former.
Which wasn't his fault.
Some of it is his fault. We're gonna break this down. We're gonna break this down. So, who did the music? I see you're ready to say.
It's I was looking for it as James Newton Howard, who's done King Kong. He did Jungle Cruise most recently, News of the World, um, Detroit. I'm just scrolling fast. Nightcrawler's his. Game stuff is his. So, Snow White and the Huntsman, in the movie where Kristen Stewart can't shut her mouth, she's just like staring. I
You know
thought like
what?
a bug would get in there. I was worried about her.
I've never seen it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just like you just watch Kristen Stewart. Like it's like, honey, mouth's closed. You can do that.
So we're gonna do a rundown of the movie real quick. And then me and Scotty are gonna talk about some of the complaints. That's how we roll here. Feel free if you have thoughts to interrupt. This is kind of how me and Mom Thulu roll through this.
So. Oh, trust me, I will. Yeah. So far, I've not been able to shut up the entire podcast.
That's the sign of a good guest. Did you ever? I don't know. I assume everyone's just watched my show religiously, but
I'm like a student of the Kevin Smith podcast. Yeah, that's great.
My first episode, I was doing this by myself, and I learned very quickly that without a co-host, I do these episodes in like 15 minutes.
Right. You gotta have somebody.
I recorded it, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is before I understood editing and everything else. So I'm like, I got 40 minutes of recording, golden. I edited it together. The first episode of this podcast was 12 minutes long.
Well, micro podcasts, those are good. People like those.
So we made pivots. We were an evolving process.
Oh, so is us. We're just the backwards. We're like, this show's 7 hours long. We can't do this.
Oh, what was it? Your Xanadu episode? That was like, and then you did another episode about it.
Like Xanadu was like, I think the Xanadu podcast is longer than the movie, Definitely. But it just went on. It's just like, I think it's actually longer than Titanic. I mean, like the Titanic episode was pretty epic too, but and like with the Xanadu episode, I cut stuff out. Like I cut, like, and I rarely I believe in organic podcasts, and so I only cut out like when there's, technical glitches or something that didn't turn out right. I cut those, but like Justina was hosting that one, and she got like real in the weeds in the trivia. And I'm like, she's reading like epic poems and stuff. I'm like, honey, no one's gonna stick around for this. So
it was a good episode, and I don't even like the movie. I've only seen like 2 minutes of the movie. I literally stopped watching.
First time watching it, it's a and there's a lot of times in those situations, but it's a cult movie, so it's kind of silly. So they're doing it live in Destin, Florida, and we're threatening to go see it.
Yeah, you need to do video of that. It'll be the first time I watch your show in video. All right, guys. So the Postman, in an alternate in an alternate history year of 1998, which I love when you see stuff like that, and that's the future, and it's like that was 30 years. Anyway.
Yep.
An unspecified apocalyptic event known only as the Doom War erased almost all technology and caused societal collapse, sending the continents back into the Dark Ages. There are pockets of survivors in more rural areas that have formed small villages.
They also don't like the Doom War. They don't say that in the movie at all. That's just like someone found that, and that's that's
very true. Very true. You don't get that from the movie. Also, it's kind of funny that 20 years after the movie, we figured out technology again, because the movie ends with modern-looking civilization.
Right.
It was a short medieval times. But we do have pockets of survivors in rural areas. They form villages to maintain some semblance of civilization, while others are a little less nice, and they have militias and warlords that prey on survivors. Horses are the standard form of travel, and bartering has replaced currency. So in 2013, again, the past, an unnamed nomad, Kevin Costner, enters the Oregon flatlands. He trades Shakespeare performances
donkey
for
named
food.
Bill.
Poor Bill. So he does Shakespeare for food and water, and in one of these towns, he is we're gonna say aggressively invited to join the ranks of a militia.
Oh no, he's conscripted. He's conscripted.
They're known as the Wholeness, and they're run by General Bethlehem. Great name.
Played by amazingly played by Will Patton. Will Patton's fantastic as the bad guy in this.
Surprisingly, because you don't really see him having those chops.
Right. Well, Will Patton's always like he's a good actor, but he's always like second banana kind of guy. He's like
he's the good old boy. He's the
he's a really good supporting cast guy. So it's really neat to see him like shift gears. He's always a good guy, and so now you get him to see really be uh, just a terrible bad guy. Like I kept watching. Why do they follow this dude? This guy is just terrible. But cults.
Because he cuts out the tongue if you try to challenge him for leadership.
No, only if you lose.
Well, if you win, he's going to be dead.
Right, but
so, needless to say, Kevin Smith. We mentioned Kevin Smith earlier. Kevin Costner does not want to hang around.
A different movie.
So he does eventually escape.
Snoogans.
We're gonna get sued for that line. As he escapes, he does take refuge in a dead postman's mail vehicle, and leaves.
Which would be weird if it was a live postman's dead vehicle.
It's also want to point out that I get it was the 90s, but we had moved on from those 50s hats and stuff. Where did he find? It should have been a ball cap and a button-up shirt. Is all I'm saying. The jacket thing and the.
Oh well, maybe they hadn't evolved because he's out west. He's in Oregon, so Oregon that's all weird down there. So
are
maybe
you saying Oregon is backward? There goes all of our Oregon listeners.
No, I'm saying Oregon is quaint.
Wait, are they the state that only recently let you start pumping your own gas?
Probably Jersey. You can't pump your gas either. So
that is crazy to me. So he's donned the postman's attire, and he arrives in a town called Pineville, claiming to be a postman from the newly restored United States.
Pineview.
What's that?
Pineview.
Yeah, what did I say?
Pineville.
My bad. Because in my brain I said Pineview.
You might have said, I just, internet connection.
Roll back the tape.
I just want to mansplain that one. No, it's Pineview.
So, yeah, he's clearly snowing them, but the only person who catches on is the town sheriff. He does manage.
Who's also really good. He's I can't think of his name offhand, but he's the
everything.
He's the sheriff in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. He's in Malcolm in the Middle. He's from, I believe he's from Alabama, and I think he recently died a few years back. But he is just he's a delight in this movie. So
he's one of those character actors that are just prolific. Like he's just all over the place.
Absolutely.
So he's snowing them all, but sheriff's the only one who figures it out. He managed to inspire a teenager named Ford Lakewood Mercury, who he swears into the postal service. I'm going to use quotations if you're not watching this live. He also has a very interesting interaction with Abby.
There's this lady, the town has this celebration, and they have a band. They have a post-apocalyptic band that plays like the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, and and so because "Come and Get Your Love" is a big part of this montage, and this Abby lady comes up to him and asks him questions like, "Hey, did you ever have the mumps?" Or basically, are you fertile? Because her husband had the mumps and is not fertile, and she wants a baby. She's like, put a baby in me, but it's going to be okay with my husband because it's going to be our baby.
And he gets to say, it's the uniform. It must be the
uniform. Absolutely, yeah.
I wonder how many postmen got created because of that.
I wonder how many like U.S. mail service people now try that. I wonder.
That's what I'm saying. Like, kids who watch that movie are like, I'm gonna be a postman.
Right.
And it's kind of like when people grow up watching CSI and they become a crime scene investigator, they are very disappointed in their job description.
Right.
So I don't get a badge and I don't get to tell you what to do. Go clean up the splooge.
One of my favorite jokes in this movie, early on, and when the town accepts him, and once he delivers his first mail, the one they accept, is that there's an ordinance that all dogs must be leashed up when I come into town.
Yes, I remember
that. And I died. It's like no one else, like no one in this movie gets the joke. They all kind of like, I guess they're gonna lock up dogs, and I'm like, no, it's cute.
Yeah, because given the timeline, the people who are old were just kids, like kids when all this went down. So yeah, no one gets it.
I mean, spoiler at the end of the movie, you get to see like Costner's birth date in this. It's 1973, so he's 30 when the movie starts.
I did. You're right. I didn't even think about. I didn't think that. Hey, I could look and see what year he was supposed to be born.
No, that's in the ending scene of the shot. It's on the statue.
Can we circle back to talk about funny moments? Okay, when he's in the enemy encampment, they're watching movies. and they try to put on Universal Soldier,
Right.
and they all throw a fit. They're throwing rocks at him because they want to watch the Sound of Music.
Sound of Music, which it did win an Oscar. Robert Wise, man, directed that.
I just love the poor guy in the boat who's showing the movie like, you babies.
He calls them, you babies.
Not that Universal Soldier is a.
Also, if we're back on track, because we skipped it because we said poor Bill, but yeah, the Holiness Army ate Bill, ate the donkey.
I made a point to make sure he knew he was eating him too.
Right, and I don't know what the slop was that like the donkey slop because it looked like gravy. It was weird. It was like
it's a sci-fi trope, but it makes sense if you're dealing with like advanced technology. Sure. I don't know how, given the level of technology they retained, how they turned Bill into a paste.
Right, I don't get the pace. Yeah, the pace. Also, since we're backtracking real quick, shout out Giovanni Ribisi.
Yes, I didn't even know he was in this.
So Giovanni Ribisi plays this. He's also conscripted, and he's, for lack of a better term, a complete and total moron, and he's really bad at it. But you feel for him because he's so dedicated, because this is all he has. Like, I think he knows himself as a loser, and this is his chance to become something big. And he is die hard in it, and then it doesn't pay out for him. But Ribisi is so good in this.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you see it the first time, you don't know that actor, and then you watch it again, you're like, I had that moment with The Man in the Iron Mask when I watched it as much older, and I realized that House is a Man in the Iron Mask, and I was like,
yeah, who gets executed?
Yes, he is that. He's what's called a scapegoat.
I love Man in the Iron Mask, and if that needs to be on this show, I'll come back for that because I will defend that movie.
It's worth putting on the research list. I have to see what the reactions were, because some shows that I wanted to talk about, I couldn't because they were well loved bastards.
Oh, it didn't do well. It didn't well, but there's a Skarsgård in it who basically does the best John Malkovich impression because he plays his son. And like when I watched it for the first time, I thought it was his kid because his Malkovich is on point. Welcome to the Man in the Iron Mask podcast.
hey, organic. All right, organic. We are going to continue.
Yes.
So Postman, that's what we call him now since he doesn't have a name.
That's what everyone else calls him.
He spends the night in Pine View.
Thank you.
He leaves the next morning with a bunch of mail that was left at the post office for Count of Benning, which I guess this is pre-apocalypse mail, or some of them I guess may have wrote some stuff, but it didn't really go into that.
Yeah, so
he's literally just getting the old mail that's sitting around and like leaves with it.
Right. So he gets mail. The initial mail he gets from the truck, and he uses some of that to get into Pineview. There's some mail at the post office that he gets, and plus the townsfolk give him mail to deliver. So he gets. There's three tiers of mail he's got.
Yeah, I remembered in the middle of your saying that, I was like, oh no, they dropped it off because he was getting mad and like, just leave it at the door. That's
when he knocks boots with the lady.
Yes.
She gives him a special delivery.
He does his postally duty.
Right.
So when he leaves,
ride, Postman, ride.
Interesting choice of words. When the postman leaves for the town of Benning, he's carrying said mail. Postman Fried is throwing my train of thought off.
That's what I do. I derail. There's casualties. That's what I do.
So after he leaves General Bethlehem, there's a raid on Pineview, and Bethlehem learns of his tale of the restored government, so he's a little cranky about that. Also, there's an American flag flying at the post office, which again, a little cranky.
Right, because he's like, this is an abomination. Yeah, Bethlehem's really big on like weakness.
You know what's funny though is a cult that started as a way to improve America, and he's very anti-America.
Well, no, because he says that in when he's talking to the postman early on when they have the one-on-one, when he sees like the postman being officer material, he and kind of tells his origin story, and it's there's a lot of conversation about striking the weak, and like the old country was weak, and it was great. It was great again. And
this is my point: is that the stuff he's talking about embracing weakness is really kind of what America's all about.
Right.
So I'm just pointing out the fallacy of we're going to make America better by changing it completely. And also create as far as we could tell from the movie, create the apocalypse. Thanks, guys.
I think they're the product of it. After we get done with this,
There was tale of them
I have a
uprising,
side pitch for.
them going around when society was still around, though. So I think they were the catalyst.
So there's a book this is based on.
Yeah,
I skimmed the Wikipedia. Who's got time to read a book nowadays? So, especially when you're running like multiple podcast networks and a toy store and all that other stuff. But I did the wiki work on it. But yeah, it's based on a book.
So we'll think. Okay, so we're gonna move on because I forgot what I was gonna say. But it was
he's on his way to Benning,
compelling.
Oregon.
Yes. So he kidnaps Abby, kills Abby's husband, kidnaps Abby, and heads
Bethlehem does.
Yes, Bethlehem. The postman is not quite that mean. The postman surrenders, but Abby saves him from execution. The two escape into the surrounding mountains. Abby's pregnant.
He is shot in the stomach too.
Yes,
he's wounded.
As my next line, a pregnant Abby and seriously wounded postman ride out the winter in an abandoned cabin.
And she's kind of just awesome at everything.
She kind of kicks his butt into motion because he's,
right.
He's a drifter and he's perfectly content to lie there and apparently just waste away.
And he was happy in the cabin. She nukes.
So she gets him going by setting the cabin on fire. I'm like, okay, cool, time to go. As they leave again because the cabin is burnt, they cross and run into a girl who claims to be a postal character, which of course is confusing Kevin Costner because he's like, I just made that shit up. Like,
right.
What are you talking about? You're a postal character.
You're not a postman. I'm the postman, and that's not real.
Comes to find out, Ford Lincoln Mercury really took it to heart and kind of organized the whole thing,
and renamed himself the Postmaster General.
and keeping in the it's all fake, he gets messages from the postman, telling him what a good job he's doing, and to listen to Ford, he knows what he's talking about.
Apparently, he does. They build a really good system.
They do. They establish communications with all these settlements. They got a little quasi society going on.
Right, and what I thought was really important because these postal workers are kids; they're like teenagers.
Oh yeah, because the adults don't want anything to do with it, really.
Right, and so it gives something for them to do, and be a part of the society. I thought it was clever.
It was, and when we get into the recap stuff at the end, I've actually got a whole point along those lines. So yeah, they set up this little quasi society and inadvertently kind of spread hope. People are, because the kernel of the center of this lie is that the United States is coming back. Hold on, guys, things are getting better. So
stuff is getting better. Stuff is getting better.
And to
all
be
the
fair,
time.
environmentally, it is like the rains are back. Apparently, it was a little worse off right before the movie started.
Do you remember the president's name?
Yes, that's in my fun facts. Mr. Starkey, Mr. President Starkey.
Richard Starkey, also known as Ringo Starr.
And there goes one of my fun facts.
I ruin things.
Yes. Again, because the postman is just making this as it goes along. Richard Starkey is the president. So Ringo survived the apocalypse and apparently became president. That's what I'm going with.
New Constitution. You Brits can come do it.
Yeah, so to Scotty's point, these are teenagers, and they're being pitted up against, the Wholeness, who are an actual army. So they're losing, is the short version. They're every time they're found, they're killed. And it escalates to the point where the postman's like, disband, I'm going to surrender, we're done with this. Like, I don't want my hands dirty.
Right.
This was not helped because, I don't remember... So they end up finding these ghosts. Remember the scene where they find the guys and they kill them? And he's like, I don't want these guys blamed for this.
Right. So this happens in Elvis, Oregon, the town that the postman names, because it's the one that he has to climb all the way to the top. And it's like,
I'm not climbing up those steps.
And he's like, we didn't name it. Well, I declare Elvis, Oregon, and now you have to get the mail downstairs because this is not going to work. So yeah, it happens outside of Elvis, Oregon. Which is funny,
Ford, instead of doing what he's supposed to do and burying the bodies, he kind of makes it worse. By kind of, I mean he blows it up.
Right, and so
ties them to a flaming cart.
You're right, and then throws it into the hole in his camp. The fun fact about that is that the Elvis Oregon sticks. In fact, with the Holiness guys are like, who are these? Who are these guys? And one of them's like, that's the Elvis Patrol. And I'm like, so I guess they're like, we're Elvis Oregon now. And I'm like, okay, we'll write that down. You guys now are the Elvis Patrol. So I liked how the name stuck.
So this is happening. Costner, the postman, he's gonna surrender. He's like, I'm done. I don't want this on my hands. Unfortunately, Bethlehem learns while and captures not only him, but he also captures a postman from outside the network. There's a carrier from California.
Right, Kara.
So, God, I just lost my whole train. You were great at that, Scotty. So no, he instead of backing off, this redoubles his efforts because he's like, oh, this is spreading and we have problems.
Right. So just to back up, so we can clarify, um, the postman writes a fake letter from the president to disband his organization, and then he has a letter that he's going to personally deliver to Bethlehem saying everything was fake and there's no war. We're just going to live our lives. And Ford is like, no, you have to let me deliver this letter. And he's like, no, because if I do, whoever delivers this letter is going to die because Bethlehem's probably going to kill them.
Yeah.
And so they go back and forth, and it's not really a hard argument. So Costner lets him take the letter, and so of course he's captured. And this is when they're going to execute him and this guy, this letter carrier from California. And then there's a sign of respect when you find out who they each other are. And Bethlehem is like, oh, this is never going to die. This is a movement, and he's got to squash this movement. It's a really good scene.
Yeah. Speaking of really good scenes, we're moving to the postman, Abby, and a small group of carriers travel to Bridge City. And the Bethlehem scouts catch up. The Enclave leader, who was Tom Petty, helps the postman to escape on a cable car.
Aren't you famous?
That is so great. We're just gonna. I think we only have one fun fact left now, but one of my fun facts was that it is confirmed by an interview. Tom Petty was playing Tom Petty, like he played himself. He's not credited as himself, but he said, "No, I'm playing myself. I am playing."
He's
Tom
credited
Petty.
as Bridgetown mayor.
Yeah. So Tom Petty is playing himself. Rest in peace, Tom Petty.
R.I.P.
He helps him escape on a cable car, which does look really fun. I'm sorry.
It's the only bad special effect I think in the film.
And considering the 90s, I mean, come on, CGI at its basic.
But no, hold on, wait, because 3 years ago, prior to this movie, we had dinosaurs that look great. So, however, it's a short scene. It's only the initial jump of him in the cable car that just doesn't look right. The rest of it's fine, but there's like it's jarring how bad it is. It's like we have no money and we can't fix it, so we're just gonna go with it. And trust me, I've been there. I understand how it goes, but I'm still like.
So he escapes, and we're gonna boil this down here a little bit, nutshell a little bit. So he gets his army. He gets volunteers on the other side of Bridge City. They all come. This is gonna come together in a big fight. So you have all the postmen on one side, you have the Holness on the other side.
Very Civil War with one guys with horses on one side and one guys with horses on the other.
But the postman has a thought, and it actually pans out. He challenges Bethlehem for control of the clan, and from the beginning of the movie, per their law, anyone could do that. And if they win, they rule. So
Law 7 of the Law of 8.
What can only be described as a schoolyard tussle prevails, or prevails in a schoolyard tussle.
It's a badly edited fight.
It really is, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about.
It's a badly edited fight.
So yeah, nutshell it down. Good guys win. Story ends some 20 years further into the future, where the postman's daughter is dedicating a statue to him. And I'm not sure how they figured out that scene with the little boy, but they did, and that's how the movie ends.
Right. It ends immortalizing a statue in what I honestly believe is the worst scene in the movie.
Right, and it's also, you make statues of scenes that are famous.
Right.
There's no television, there's no communication other than mail. Who else in the world other than that little boy knew about that moment?
And I get the sentiment, like him delivering mail and there's a child there. I get like what they were thinking, and I in their world, it's not like the scene that happened, but maybe a scene that could happen. And we're like, no, we just watched that. So we just watched.
But then the little boys in the audience,
the little boys, and adults, like, that was me, teardrop, But that scene is so badly edited, and it doesn't work. I love this movie, but Costner uses way too much slow-mo in this, and the slow-mo is jarring.
No, we're going to talk about that, because I did not know. No, that's in my notes. That is in my notes. The little shutter moments.
Yeah.
Oh my god! It's like he learned that trick right before the movie. And he's like, "Here's what I can do."
Right, and it's in that dramatic, especially a dramatic scene where, because it's so dramatic, they immortalize it at the end, and it just doesn't quite work. Doesn't. And it's the same way with the editing on that fight scene. It's just like, I'll swing a punch or roll around and hug this guy, and then we'll just cut to different people watching it because they're like, "This fight's so terrible, we got to do something to stretch it out."
All right, so the movie is sitting at 8% on Rotten Tomatoes,
Which is unfair.
with a better but still pretty bad audience score of 50%. Needless to say, the consistency here is bleak. In one instance, when I was looking through reviews, the comment was, "I gave them 3 stars instead of 2 because they tried." They missed, but completely they tried. So, Scotty,
Okay,
I
that's fair.
operate on the assumption that you've never seen the show. So, I scour through Reddit and Rotten Tomato comments and try to
Right.
find a consensus, like a top 3 overall complaints.
Mhm.
And then we're going to look at them. We're going to talk about if they're valid, because sometimes they are.
Cool.
And then, do they overall change your opinion of the movie? Spoiler alert, I don't do movies I don't like, so haha.
Oh, on our show we do. There's like I do. I have 3 hosts, and we never agree on anything. So that's interesting.
So let's look at some of those complaints, starting with pacing and the film is too long. Over and over, I saw this film is slow, or it's too long, or it's too long and it's slow. The film is just under 3 hours, which yes is very long. And I'm all for longer movies, dude, if the story allows for it. But I don't know. I got to give it to complainers here. I think you could easily lose 30 to 45 minutes of this film and still get the job done. The whole first town sequence, you could have done that in dialogue.
But see, no, the rule in film is that you show not tell. So,
But that doesn't set up anything in the main story. It's all exposition. And none of those characters, even though Giovanni Ribisi is awesome, none of those characters really matter or really dig to the heart of the story.
No, but the stuff in the first town and goes into. I mean, that sets up where you're at. So that first town where he does Shakespeare, that lets you see how bleak this world is. It's so bleak that they will accept terrible Shakespeare as entertainment, and then you get the glimpse about what the holiness is, and so yeah, I don't disagree that there's places that they're cuts. There could be cuts, but not like whole scenes. I could take 15-20 minutes out of this movie easily.
Yeah.
A little farther, maybe harder, but
so, in general, we just agree on where to cut. But
right,
yeah, it didn't need to be 3 hours long.
No, it's 2.5.
Costner loves long movies,
but he makes epics. I mean, he's had.
He likes long movies and horses, and
I mean, look, Dances with Wolves is brilliant. The Waterworld director's cut is fantastic.
I have not seen the directors. That might change.
The Waterworld movie is not great. The director's cut adds enough stuff to make it works like in a weird like sci-fi cartoon way, and so I love the director's cut of that. But out of all, is like Dances with Wolves, especially because I'm, as I said before, I am a Native American, so positive Native American reinforcement is kind of happy in cinema. But when it comes down to sci-fi epics, I love this film, and the fact that it is kind of long, like a good, like a good classic sci-fi novel that's like 500 pages.
I love good lore.
Right.
You give me the right movie at 3 hours.
Right, it's full of it.
Beautiful. This one could have been shorter. Batman could have been shorter. Sorry, could have been shorter.
The Batman should have just did something else instead of 7, but that's a whole different story.
They figured the people who would know 7 are either dead or like us.
I just kept watching. Going, no, 7 did this better. I felt like it was terrible. And Batman's not a good movie.
So we're in agreement here. Someone needs to help Mr. Costner edit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes director hubris. I get it.
Another problem that I saw mentioned a lot is that the film is cheesy or overly patriotic, heavy-handed, and I don't really disagree here, except that I think it works for the movie. Hang on, because I knew this was going to be a big talker for you. I don't know if I hold it against them, because it's kind of on brand. For the 90s, Independence Day comes to mind immediately. Overly patriotic was like the thing, but it also fits the story. Like, because I see you're brimming with thoughts.
Yes.
Let me finish my thought here real quick, because it fits the story in that. So in this case, he puts on a postal uniform, and people end up rallying behind that as a symbol of hope. But I feel like they were really so desperate for anything that could have worked.
Right.
You could have come in as the lizard god from Scientology and gotten the job done. Some kind of unifying voice. Hell, Bethlehem could have united everyone if he had did just a little bit less of a douchebag.
Right.
Like,
If he wasn't,
he
just
offers
a terrible guy.
stability and hope as well. If he wasn't a d-bag about doing it, they would have gotten
No,
behind him.
right. And he's steeped in history, and but he sees himself as a warlord. I mean, he even calls himself Hannibal at the gates.
We also
So
haven't grazed
pretty
on this
already.
part of the topic yet, but it was very heavy into race. Um,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
that was one of the things. That it was one of those militia groups.
Right. It was like white people bad. I mean, that's where this group's, these bad guys are, and so they don't. They try to get conscripted guys, and there's, a mixed race dude that they're like, I don't think he's acceptable, but bad times I bring him in anyway.
Oh, he
And
pushes it further. He's like, I don't care what he says. I can see it in you. I'm not gonna say the word. I can see it
right,
in you.
right. And so yeah, there's that, and so,
So
um,
I saw you brimming at like overflowing. So thoughts?
I don't think it's, I don't think it's overly patriotic. Um, there are symbols of America in it. Don't get me wrong, the flag, but it's not like we're waving the flag because it's America. It's a sign of hope, instead of it being a patriotic country. It's just like things are getting back to normal, and this is what normal. This is what used to be normal for us. The only time that I kind of get it heavy-handed in it is during the fight scene, where he's like, "I'm doing this for the United States of America," and he wins because of that. And it's just like, oh,
But no, but for
that's
the most
not
part, we're right and I'm right. We're both right.
I
They
mean,
don't really go overly into, I don't think, Americana, other than the fact
no,
that he just happened to be wearing a postman outfit.
right. And so yeah, that's a government official uniform. So there's that, but it's not like, look, I'm American. Check this out. It's not like this is the greatest thing in it. In fact, it's almost the opposite. It's like, hey, look, it's we're trying, and the fun part is it's all fake anyway. It's this guy's lie about where he thinks it should be, and it's not like he's trying to pass on beliefs or anything. He's just like, he's a con man, and he's just trying to make it work.
I love that arc with him too, as he starts out as a con man and he kind of buys into his own propaganda at the end, and he
Absolutely.
converts himself, and that's hero's journey. It was storyteller 101, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, again, symbol of hope was done. It was not America's awesome. It was people were desperate and be a unifying force,
Right.
and
It's
that's what.
and of course it's pro America. It's an American film.
And again, come on,
It,
mid '90s Independence Day, where America,
Air Force One,
single handedly saves the
which
planet.
I'll bring up in a second again. I'll bring back up because Air Force One, Titanic, and this movie have an interesting history together.
Do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this now. So I'll just go into it. How
Yeah,
about
no,
that?
go into it because the last point is basically me just complaining about the WrestleMania fight. So,
Yeah, which we've done. Like it's not it's more like two guys who can't fight hug each other until they stop hugging each other. It's not a great fight. That's and so not even it's not even a great '90s fight. I think like even in the '80s when Kirk fought Christopher Lloyd and in Star Trek 3, that's a better fight than what we get.
I watched that fight. You know what I want to see? I know it doesn't fit the story. I don't care. What I want to see is Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones when the guy comes out all fancy with the knives and he has
Oh
like a
yeah,
half a thought and just shoots him.
right.
That's what it should have been.
No,
Ford should have been in the background, like bang.
right. Absolutely. So this came up during my Titanic research for our Titanic episode. So Air Force One, Titanic, and the Postman all come out in 1997, and the story is that no one believes that Titanic is going to be the powerhouse that it is. The studios are not really thinking about it because it's a ambitious film that's over budget. I mean,
Yeah, and
Cameron
I get it because what's his name? The director, he's done amazing work,
Cameron,
but it was different from his other work. So
right. He's
they can't even lean on his history and be like,
right. His last film was True Lies, which was like a thriller, comedy, like a political kind of thing with CIA, like a James Bond stuff. And then he's going to Titanic because he is in love with Titanic, literally, and so he makes a love story about Titanic. And so the theaters are like, not the theaters, but the companies, no one's really, the studios are not like, they're kind of worried, but not really worried about it. Flip side is Harrison Ford is terrified of it because he knows what's coming because he believes in Cameron. He knows Cameron's a good filmmaker. So Air Force One is originally slated to come out Christmas time, 1997, until Harrison Ford goes, we're not going to compete with Titanic. And so he forces the studio to switch 2 movies. The Postman was supposed to come out in the summer. The Postman is totally a summer film. It's longer. You stay in the air conditioner longer to watch the film. It's kind of an adult film, so the kids are going to watch whatever kiddie movie, and you and the wife can watch something a little bit more serious. And no, they switched Air Force One with it. Air Force One has an amazing run. It's a good movie. It has an amazing run, but it's also almost like Postman. They're both kind of forgettable. They exist, but when's the last time you really seen it? It's one of those things. Postman goes out Christmas and bombs. The reason why it's bombs because everyone's still seeing Titanic. Everyone is seeing Titanic.
I can't tell
Titanic
you.
dominates for 6 months. I saw it 11 times in theaters.
Tell you how many times doing this show we have found movies that was the case. Mm-hmm. They were released. The studio at the last minute changed release dates, and Frighteners, one of the last episodes we did last season, was supposed to be a Halloween movie, but they had a slot open, and they're like, "We like you. We're going to put you in July," and it bombed.
Right. Harrison Ford knew what was up. He knew Cameron's movie was going to do killer, and was like, "We're not competing against it," and forced the studio to change dates. So Air Force One comes out in the summer, Postman comes out at Christmas, and of course, everything else is just annihilated by Titanic.
Yeah, which as it should have been.
Right. Titanic wins 11 Oscars. it's
and of course we know this now because we have 30 more years of experience with James Cameron. Whatever James Cameron wants to do, write him a blank check.
Absolutely.
Because that man spends nothing but gold.
Right. Absolutely.
Everything he touches.
That's why I'm excited for Avatar: The Way of Water. I saw the trailer and was like, I'm in. You got me. You had my money beforehand. So
you had me at presented by James Cameron.
Right. Had me 10 years when Avatar came out. I was like, I think more of these.
You gotta like a director like that when he's doing it as he wants to do it, and it's a good project, not because he needs the money.
Right. Absolutely.
Cameron is not doing anything for the money. He's good.
He's good. He makes the projects he wants to make, and the studio's like, we can make money. People tend to forget before Force Awakens, Avatar was the highest grossing movie of all time.
It sat there for years.
For years, and then Force Awakens, and then the Marvel movies after that kind of dominated over. But it's still up there. And I think it's also going to try to regain some strength because I hear it's coming back out in the summer.
That would make sense
to gear people up. And
it's been so long doing another release.
Right. I also recommend everyone to see it. If you did not get to see it the first time in 3D, go see it in 3D because, and even people who have issues with 3D, this is a different kind of 3D. I say, it's immersive.
Yes.
And you feel like you're part, and so you lose that watching in a home video. Like
it's not exploitive either. Like sometimes you get 3D movies and they do shots that clearly they're just like this will look awesome. You're not in 3D. And it makes no sense.
3D shot. There's none of that. They're just like, oh, you're in this crazy jungle and there's a monster and blue Smurf people. It's a fantastic art piece wrapped up in a James Cameron's greatest hits. The story's not great. It's Dancing with Wolves with
I was gonna say it's Fern Gully for adults, but Dancing with Wolves works too because you're pulling out the indigenous life form.
Well, but both of them are kind of together. So, but
indigenous life being threatened by evil white guy.
Absolutely, and all the evil white guys are like, it's all the characters you like in James Cameron movies. There is all of them. So it's like, in fact, I was actually talking Michael Biehn, who's Kyle Reese and Hicks, and he's in almost every James Cameron film. He was supposed to be the main villain for what's his name? The guy who almost was Cable. Anyways, it'll come to me. Steven, but they went another way, and so they cast him as that could have been Michael Biehn, which would have been perfect because he's the only thing missing out of that movie. I hope he's in this new one.
All right, guys. So final thoughts on The Postman. And stop me if you disagree, but I think we're pretty much on the same page on some of this stuff. The movie ran too long. It's flawed for sure. The movie ran too long. Those slow shots. This is where I mentioned what you were talking about, the slow-mo things. I'm sure there's a term for it. I don't know what it is, but obviously you know what I'm talking about. You brought it up already. I'm not a fan of that technique, and I'm certainly not a fan of it being used like every other scene.
It doesn't work in this film. It doesn't.
So flawed, but as we like to say here, everything is flawed. Wasn't enjoyable. That's the question. And to me, it's yes, the flaws are not so bad that it pulls me out of the story. The story works. And for me, it pulls an emotional strings. And if you can get me on an emotional level, like if you can get
Oh
me at the climax and I'm like, I'm not crying,
yeah,
then
no,
you won. You won.
right.
And this
And
movie did it.
and we follow along with the Postman's journey really well on this. Like his whole arc is believable and easily digestible, and by the end of it, like the dramatic ending, even though the fight's lame, but the getting to that fight and like bending the rules to save everybody from war. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great gimmick.
The William Wallace moment with the armies. I don't remember if when that came out. Braveheart.
Right.
I don't remember who was copying who, but that Braveheart moment when all the soldiers lined
Right.
up. That's where it gets you in the
right.
soul strings. Like,
and Braveheart was 95, so
the Braveheart did win.
Yeah, so
it's a good movie, people. Go watch it.
So I have some interesting thoughts if we got some more time.
Yeah. We got all the time you need, buddy.
All right, so I want to play a game because I play this game on our show, and I want to play this with you. So I have the top 10 movies of the opening weekend for The Postman. Where do you think it lands? Oh,
I would say probably.
And I would say the weekend is Christmas weekend, so it's it came out Thursday, which was December 25th, Christmas Day, and it runs to the 28th, which is Sunday. So it's a 4-day weekend. So and we know what number one is.
I was gonna say we know Titanic is in there.
Number one.
So
number one. It's in its.
It didn't do much money, so I'm gonna go with 4 or 5.
Number 9.
I knew that could not be in the top 3.
It is. It opens at $5 million, which is way below its budget. Opens at 5.
Yes.
Let's explore some things that it beat. Number 2 is a Bond movie.
90s. We're still doing Pierce Brosnan.
Yep.
What was the second Pierce Brosnan movie? It's the second Pierce Brosnan movie.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah. Is that correct?
Yes. Number 3 is a comedy that stars the best picture, the best actor and the best actress of the following year Oscars. So they win the Oscars for this movie.
Oh God. For this movie?
Yeah, for the movie they're in. Yeah, Titanic wins everything else, but they don't win the acting Oscars because these two win the acting Oscars.
I do not know.
Okay, so one of the guy, the male, the male lead in this is, I would call Hollywood royalty. Was a big. You saw him a lot until the last few years at every Oscars and at Laker games.
What is that answer Justina's always giving that's wrong?
She's Toy Story for everything. Everything's Toy Story.
That's what I want to say. Toy Story.
Toy Story for everything. All right, so I will give. This actor is in A Few Good Men.
Oh, is it Nicholson? Oh my God, I know what we're talking. I know what it is. I love this movie. It's the one with Helen Hunt and Jack Nicholson, right?
Yes.
Those are the 2 actors.
Yes.
What is the name of the dang movie?
As Good as It Gets.
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah. So number 3 is its opening weekend and opened at 12. So everyone who saw Titanic went and saw the Bond movie and As Good as It Gets, or saw Titanic again, basically. And then it gets lower from that. So we get number 4 is a family comedy with Nathan Lane and Christopher Walken.
You know, you said Nathan Lane. I almost said Birdcage, and I'm like, no, he said family. He said family.
Not really a family movie. Not funny, adorable. I love it.
My family loves it.
Hank Azaria is fantastic in that movie.
Oh, how awesome is he?
Oh,
he's the reason that the Simpsons never got rid of Apu.
Right.
Azaria is the one who's like, in today's climate, we don't need to be doing it.
Right.
And he's the reason he went away. The man is beautiful. He turned out a steady paycheck.
Yeah, but he's other voices on.
Well, he's like 9 other voices because it's a cartoon.
Right,
it's a cartoon, so they share.
So he didn't cut any pay.
Now I already forgot. You said Nathan Lane. Who was the other character?
Oh, Christopher Walken. Yeah, movie made $9 million. It comes in number 4. It's about a guy who gets a house that has an uninvited visitor in it that he wants to get rid of.
Is it a ghost movie?
No.
I'm just guessing. I think some of what you said. I have no memory of this at all.
Ready? Mouse Hunt.
Oh, this is why I didn't remember, because it had been outside of my age range, and I didn't have kids yet.
Right. So number 5 is a Quentin Tarantino movie. That
96?
Yeah, 97.
97.
Probably one of my favorite. Probably my second favorite Quentin Tarantino movie?
It's the one that should have done better than it did.
Mm-hmm.
With Pam Grier and
Absolutely, Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown. I'm bad with titles, but I was there.
No, that's what I'm here for. I call that a win. You get close, you win on the show.
No, because you said the number, and that one should have done better than it did.
And it opened at 9 million, so it did all right. Number 6 is a horror film, a sequel of a newer franchise, but respectable. In fact, just recently had a installment.
Oh, it's going to be one of the Halloween movies. You said a sequel?
No, it is a sequel, but it's not one of the Halloween films.
Not Halloween. No. Scream. One of the Scream movies.
Scream.
Scream.
Yep. Scream. Yeah, Scream 2. The number 7 is also a horror film. It's a sequel of a 1981 horror film. It does not hold up though. The 81 film's great, but the sequel is terrible.
I don't remember, but this sounds like it could be a good thing for my other podcast where we talk about the rag on horror movies.
Right.
Hint.
You want a hint?
Hint.
It is has a foreign city in the title. So does the original. So does the first movie. John Landis directed the first one.
Landis directed a horror movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you got to give this to me because I don't know, but I feel like I've been here to be shocked as Landis.
So Landis originally directed an American Werewolf in London. It's a Landis film.
He really?
Yeah, that's his. Yeah, that's his.
I would never have pegged that as Landis.
And then of course we're talking about American Werewolf in Paris.
Yes, but you're right. You're right. The original is amazing. It was meh.
All right, number 8, the one that just beats out The Postman, is a Robin Williams Disney classic remake about a scientist.
Oh, the Flubber one.
Flubber.
Oh, it was actually called Flubber. Yeah.
Flubber, right. The number 9, we've talked about The Postman. It beats a Leslie Nielsen movie at number 10. That
is it one of the Naked Guns?
No, it's not Naked Gun. It is he is playing a famous 1960s cartoon character.
Animated, I'm assuming.
No, it's live action. He's the live action version of the animated cartoon character.
This did so well that I don't.
In fact, the joke is that this guy has some sort of disability, and the whole show is about him and his disability. So it's what we call problematic today.
I don't know.
Mr. Magoo.
See, I'm trying to think of like superhero stuff, like.
Right. So that is the top 10 movies of.
I do remember that movie.
Christmas Day in 1997.
I did not remember it existed until you just said it.
So, the other thing I want to talk about real quick, just to open up discussion, I think you'll find this fascinating. You and I both like Star Trek, right?
Yes.
We're both Star Trek fans.
Yes.
What if this movie happens during the eugenics war and World War III? It
tracks. That tracks.
Right. I like this totally could be in the Star Trek universe.
We talked about this before the show started, so you guys won't know we talked about this. But what I think is funny with people who aren't super fans of Star Trek, what they don't realize is that the perfect world, of humanity evolving to above all these problems, didn't just happen. Mm-hmm. There was a war, and like 80% of the population was wiped out.
Right.
So this kind of tracks because this is the kind of landscape you're talking about.
Right.
We're rebuilding anyway. We might as well not be D-backs.
So there's 3 things that specifically happen that we know, and it depends on how you look at it. Because like the eugenics war and then World War III, and sometimes they get confused or combined, but I believe they're separate incidents. The eugenics war happens before the second season of Picard. They're in post-eugenics war, and they're leading to a World War III. And then after World War III, we get what is called the post-atomic horror, and that's what Encounter Farpoint is what Q's wearing the judge's uniform and has the guys with machine guns doing drugs. That all happens in the post-atomic horror, which would have been around this time. Mm-hmm. And then from that you get to Zephyr Cochrane and launching into space for first contact. So, nerding out, but yeah, this fits. It
totally
tracks with me. It's like, if it wasn't this other book, I would like, or if Paramount owned it, I would be like, let's just wedge it in there because it makes sense to me.
Zephyr Cochrane's great grandfather was in Benning. I'm telling you, this tracks.
Sure. This tracks for me. And the last thing I want to mention is that so this movie is long, right? And however, What do you think now if they did a remake and instead of making it a film, making it a show for a streaming service?
I think it would have worked much better.
I think it
We
works.
have learned with how people are handling long form or short form versus long form that sometimes these things that would have been a long movie but left stuff out made for a much better in like a 6 limited series, like a 6 episode limited series.
I think in the right hands, this would make a fantastic show.
And I had not read the book, but I am assuming, as most movies taken from a book, it left out a bunch.
Well, the book and the movie are really they're radically different.
That also happens.
And so, yes, there's the Postman element, but the Postman element is actually like the second half of the book. The first half of the book is like, how did we get here? And it's all about.
See, I don't love that. I would have loved more information on that.
Right, and so it kind of goes through that journey, and then the second part of the book is the Postman doing his thing. But there's like the Wholeness Army is in there, and Bethlehem is in there, but there's a lot of different stuff going on. But it's according to the wiki article. So,
but no, I think you're right. I think as a short form series, this would have been great.
Absolutely, actually, I can't remember. Do you remember who put this out? What studio?
I almost said Universal, but then I immediately thought that was wrong.
They have Peacock. This would be a great Peacock show. I'd watch it on Peacock.
We can find out real quick. Oh wait, I've got the Google search right here, the Postman. Oh, but I have it for images.
Let's see.
Oh. IMDb.
Yeah, I'm on it too.
We're on Who Can Google Faster. Paramount.
Oh yeah, so Paramount. So yeah, put it on Paramount. Oh, it is Paramount. Then Paramount on Star Trek. Make this a Star Trek film.
I wonder if it was on Paramount because I paid to rent it on Amazon. If I realized it was a Paramount film, I'd have looked up Paramount Plus.
It wasn't on Paramount Plus. I just watched it before. I use justwatch.com. That's how I find all my movies and where they're streaming. So if you don't know about that, justwatch.com is amazing. But then I realized I had bought it like last year, so I owned it. So I watched it on Prime.
I did that after renting. No, I'm not renting. I did that. I realized that Force Awakens, when it first came out on Amazon, I bought. I forget that until every once in a while I'll pull it back up. Like, oh yeah, I own that movie.
No, because like I was going to go buy it. From I found out it was on Prime. I was like, oh, I'll just buy it because I like it. And then it was like, when I got to click, it was like, would you like to start over or resume? I'm like, do I own this?
As a matter of fact, now that I remember, I did not rent this movie. I paid $1 extra and did a month of Stars.
Oh yeah,
because it was
Stars. Yeah,
it was $3.99 to rent the movie, or $4.99 for 1 month of Stars.
$5 for Stars. I'm like,
yeah, 1 month of Stars.
I'll get Stars. Yeah, get Stars. I've done that a few times too.
All right, so I think that brings us to fun facts, which is a feature we added on the last few episodes of season 1, and I may or may not have stolen the idea from someone sitting across the aisle here from me.
Fun facts are
I
great.
try not to look. It was an aspect of Scotty's show that I thought I liked, and I absorbed it.
You're absolutely welcome to it.
Some of these we've already discussed because Scotty is great at this kind of stuff in his research. So Starkey, we already know.
Yeah, Richard Starkey. And it's not because I do a lot of research. It's like, so I can't do.
This is how your brain works, and it's great.
Right? Yeah, I can't do math, but I can tell you like 10 different versions of like different class of Star Trek ships, and so or like weird facts about the Postman. But like algebra, I don't know what that is.
The crew referred to this film as Dirt World.
Yes, there's a lot of dirt.
That was one of the fun facts. The opening mining pit, or an open mining pit in Tucson, was used to create Bethlehem's camp. It was one of the largest film sets ever dressed, and it was at least 2 miles wide and 1,200 feet.
A hell of an art director too, making that work.
Did you know that at one point in development, this was a Ron Howard film starring Tom Hanks?
Yes, it was. It definitely was.
I tried to picture that Tom Hanks directed by Ron Howard.
It was.
It'd have been a different movie.
So Tom Hanks is doing a bunch of films for Apple now, Apple TV Plus, and he's got a post-apocalyptic one with a robot. When I first saw that show, I was like,
good.
"Is he making?"
That was really good.
But when I first saw it show up, I was like, "Is he making his version of the Postman now? Is that what's going on?" And then,
no, it's not.
Then the robot shows up.
That was better than it should have been.
There's no robots in the Postman, so
no, that we're aware of. Westworld, cross universes. Supposedly, this film has been parodied twice by The Simpsons. I can only find one example. Monty Can't Buy My Love. I could not find the second version of this, but Google insists that it was done twice. So
Why would Google lie?
So apparently it's been done by The Simpsons twice, but for sure one time in Monty Can't Buy Me Love. And then our final fun fact we've also already discussed: Tom Play is in fact paying himself Tom Petty.
The
I do like
mayor of Ridgetown.
that dialogue. You're famous, and when he finds out who Costner is, like, hey man, you're famous.
They should have hugged. We're almost famous together.
Well,
I'm just happy that there's a post-apocalyptic band in the one town. I thought that was clever.
I did not mention the song at the end, which is Kevin Costner singing.
Yeah, he sings. Like, his whole family's on this, all over this movie. His wife plays the lady who is the mother, is the daughter of the blind lady who reads the letter to her. That's his wife. His son is the boy who gives the letter to the postman.
Is it really his son?
Right, and he's got I think his daughter's in it somewhere too. I looked it up earlier, but yeah, his whole family's in
why be big in Hollywood if you're not going to be,
right? If I'm directing, if I'm directing a movie, you all in it. Just come on up. We'll find something for you.
And listening to this podcast on Voyager done by Garrett Wong and Robert Duncan McNeil, do you have any idea how many of the guest stars were just like friends of Michael Piller?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a thing that happens. Find you someone famous in Hollywood because they'll hook you up.
Well, it's even funny. Like, even it's funny for even like those actors who are like, I don't know who that is, but I've seen your face kind of actors. There's like 3 roles that those guys will, like, in history will do, and you'll see like they're either a body or a victim or a perpetrator on a CSI or a Law and Order. They're always an alien in Star Trek. And then they're a patient on one of those medical shows, and that's the easiest gigs to get in Hollywood. So, aspiring actors, that's what you should do, or go to Vancouver because they're shooting everything in Vancouver.
Right. I met someone recently at a work thing. We did onboarding, like, get to know the company, and I work for United Way, so it was all over. And one of the girls in my subgroup was from Vancouver. I'm like, you mean where they do all the TV shows? She's like, yeah. I was like, who have you seen? like, tell me, who have you met?
Yeah, all the CW stuff's there. X-Files started that. They started when they did the X-Files. And so I've never been there, but I've told, like, if you drive around with Vancouver, you just find things you've seen in TV shows everywhere.
Yeah. So I think that's going to wrap us up for the night, though, guys. You like the show, do us a favor, subscribe, write a review. If you're watching on the YouTubes, give us a follow so we can be fancy like Scotty here and get our own personalized URL. And follow us on Twitter. You can find us at Jesters Court Pod. At least until Ellen starts charging for business accounts. In case we might have to revisit Twitter.
No, you just make a personal account and make it all about business. You circumvent the.
Scotty, thanks for coming on for our season opener. Where can the fine folks find you coming up?
All right, cool. So everything is on my website at www.scottywhite.com. That's one. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/MopCast Network. You can listen to our podcast. You can rate and subscribe just like you can the Justice Court. And any podcast, we're on everything. So if you listen to a podcast, or if you're listening to this podcast, go look in your search for MopCast Network and subscribe. It helps us out. Like and rate as well. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Cult Movie Cantina and facebook.com/Tuesdays with Scott. We like I said, we do 3 specific podcasts. I have the Cult Movie Cantina, which we introduce a cult film. I have a co-host who adds a alcoholic beverage, so you can have a cocktail the next time you watch it. And then our third co-host is someone who was basically raised Amish, and she's never seen movies like you should have. And so she always gives us an interesting perspective. She doesn't like anything like you should like because she doesn't have the back. It's very funny. Then I have my Star Wars life because me and my other 2 co-hosts, Drew Hall and JD Vertrees, we're big Star Wars fans, and we're going to gear up for Obi-Wan coming up in the next couple of weeks, and so we're going to be doing a show for that. And then finally, I have my show Tuesdays with Scotty, which is just me literally talking about whatever I want to talk about with my friends and introducing some cool stuff to everybody. So that's what I do. So again, that's MopCast Network, anywhere you listen to the podcast, and definitely, and if you want to see our smiling faces, definitely subscribe to our YouTube page, youtube.com/MopCast Network.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Scotty.
I did that from memory.
Well,
I'm exhausted.
As hosts of shows do. I don't put that. That used to be in my outline. All our socials. Now I don't need an outline anymore. It's just there.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like.
But join us next week. We're going to be talking about Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks is great.
Mars
That's a
Attacks
that's
is
a
great, and apparently too many
fantastic.
people did not realize it was supposed to be parody.
No, it's fantastic. It's one of Tim Burton's best.
And also next week you can catch me and our wayward host, Mom Thulu, on the Innsmouth Rag, and we're talking about Insidious.
Oh, also a good movie. Also a good
So
movie.
thank you guys, and we will see you next time around.
And I'm going to have them both on our show, Cult Movie Cantina. And a couple of weeks, we're going to do Return of the Living Dead. It's going to happen in July because we're going to try to air it the same time the movie happens, July 3rd. So around then, that's what I think. July 3rd is a Wednesday, so it should launch then. So we'll be doing that soon.
Yes,
And that's
looking forward to that
movie.
because
That's
cross promotion here. We're gonna,
and they're cool people. I like hanging out with cool people.
All right, folks. See you next time. Thank you.